Let's go through this training manual here. We've got our topics, the topics that will be discussed, okay? This tells you each slide that whatever topic you are needing is going to be found, okay? So say you want to add a new employee vendor. You're going to go to slide 15, okay? A new individual. An individual is someone who's using a social security number, okay? Or a business who is someone who's using an FEIN, also known as federal tax ID number, sometimes known as TIN, okay? Okay, so if I go to slide, let's see, we're going to do a new employee, okay? I'm going to go to slide 13. Okay. Oh, this is the 3A screen. Before you go to slide 13 or before you go to the 52 screen, which I'm going to show you in a minute, you're going to go to the 3A and you're going to run your number or your name. The 3N will run your number. This is the 3A. It will run the name, last name, comma, first name, comma, and anybody with that name is going to come up. Okay. It's going to be the same when I go in and show you on R-Stars. But these are all the slides that have to do with setting up a vendor, adding an employee, okay? This is an actual example. This example here is an example of the screen that I'm going to be entering profiles for you today, okay? So I'm just letting you know that these examples will show you how to actually set up an employee, how to set up a social security number, and how to set up a federal tax ID number. You just need to go to the slide that you're looking for, go through the slides, and it will tell you step by step what you're going to do. And these are screenshots of what it will actually look like when you're done and what it should look like. Okay, you see the vendor number, you see the name control, you see the vendor name, you see this last search field, how the vendor name is going to be. It tells you how to code each one of these fields, the vendor type, the 1099 indicator, the ownership code. It tells you how to put in the address with its abbreviations, road, northeast. Okay, so the manual is actually really good. Okay, so it will show you exactly what I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go out of this. Okay, so when you go into R-Stars to set up a new profile, okay, or even to look at a new vendor profile, to go to the 3A screen, to go to any of the screens that you need for that deal with vendors, okay? You will go into E23, okay? That's production, all right? Today, I'm not going into production right now. I'm going to go into the training region, all right? So I'm just going to back up, and I'm going to go into the training region, okay? So here I'm going to press enter, and it brings you to this screen, okay? I'm going to enter, or I'm going to pause here, okay? I'm going to pause, okay? And I'm going to put in CESN, and I'm going to enter, okay? This is going to bring me to the screen where I put in my user ID and my password in order to get in here, okay? Now, I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen again so that I can get in here, okay? So that you don't see what I'm putting in, okay? But this is where you put your user ID and your password, okay? You have to have your user ID, okay? Now I'm sharing again. Does everybody see my screen? If you don't, please raise your hand. Okay, what I have done is I've come to a blank screen because I put in my user ID and I put in my password, okay? And I pressed enter. So on this screen, when you get to this blank screen, you're going to do FSYS and enter, okay? You see that you're in R-Stars, okay? So you're just going to enter again and again until you get to a link to screen, okay? Then you decide what screen you want to go to, okay? So if you want to set up a new profile, you're going to go to the 3A. That's going to be your first screen that you go to. Or you're going to go to the 3N. Okay, so the 3N looks like this. And here you can put in the vendor number that you're planning on entering into the system. Okay. I don't use this screen very often. Okay, so say this is the federal tax ID number that I'm going to enter on our system. It's going to be brand new, but I want to see if it's already there. Okay, it's not. Okay, so I'm safe to enter that profile. All right. The other screen, the screen that I use, is the 3A screen. You're going to put an S here and you're going to select. And then you're going to put the vendor name that you're going to enter new, okay? So say you're going to enter a social security number, okay? So you're going to put in the last name of the person, a comma, and the first name, or at least some of the characters of the first name, okay? Okay, I want Marcy, but I'm going to put in MAR because I want to see everything that comes up. I want to see maybe if Marcella comes up with the same address. Okay, nothing's found for Marcy Jones. Okay, so for anything with MAR Jones. Okay, so that means that you can enter your profile. It should be there. Okay, for a social security number. That person should be there, or should not be there, and you should be able to enter the profile. Okay. S&S supply is not there. So I can enter that vendor. Unless I want to try that. Okay. Just to be on the safe side. Okay, say I want to enter, oops. Marion County. Okay, there is something about Marion County on this system. Okay, it's already here. Maybe if I change it to, let's try Multnomah. I want to get something up here. Oh, this is training region. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. All right. All right. That's why. Okay. This is the training reason. It's not going to be like production where all these things would be coming up for me. So I guess bottom line, what you can say is that none of these names are coming up, so they should be safe to enter into the system. I'm sorry. Okay. So I tried all of these. These are the vendors that I want to enter today. I can enter all of them because they're not on the system. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to the 52 screen where I'm going to set up my new profile. Okay. Okay. So I want to set up an employee. All right. So in order to set up an employee, I have to start it with a 1. Okay. It always starts with a 1. Okay. It always starts with OR. Okay. The alphabetic O, not the 0. So it's OR. Okay. Then I'm going to put in the employee number that I have. Okay. Okay. There's my number. Okay. So employees come under a person's name, right? Okay. So for the name control, you're going to do the first 4 characters of the last name. Okay. Okay. All right. Then where it says vendor name, where I'm at now, you're going to put in the first name, the last name. Okay. Just like that. Then you're going to tab. We call this the second search field. We're going to skip it for an employee. This is the third search field. We're going to skip it for an employee. Unless you have something specific to this person's name that you personally want to be there. Okay? That's your choice. That's the agency's choice. But the normal setup for an employee is to skip those search fields and go to the very last one, which is the 4th search field. Here, you're going to put in the last name and a comma. Okay? Now, that last name cannot be any more than 13 characters. If you have more than 13 characters for the last name, you do not put it. You knock off those last characters that are too many. Okay? The first name followed by a comma. Always a comma after the last name, always a comma after the first name. The first name cannot be more than 10 characters. If there are more characters than 10, you're going to knock off those additional characters. In the instance that the name is Christopher. Christopher is 11 characters. So I'm going to take off that R and I'm going to put a comma. Okay? Okay, if you have a middle initial, you can put it, but after the comma, and no comma. If you have a middle name, you can put it after the comma, but no comma. Okay? When you go down to the vendor type field, which is your next step, only for an employee, you're going to put a 1 here, always, okay? In the ownership code, you're always going to put an E, only if it's an employee. In the 1099 indicator field, you're going to put an N, only if it's an employee. In the FEI/SSN indicator field, you're going to put an O, the letter O, for other, only if it's an employee, okay? You're always going to put the reason code for a new profile as add, okay? Then you're going to come down here and you're going to put the address, your person's address. You're going to abbreviate street. You're going to abbreviate Northeast, okay? If it were Boulevard, if it were Avenue, you would abbreviate, okay? And the reason for this is because we get a discount from the post office for doing it their way, abbreviations, okay? That's the way they like it. I probably couldn't call them right now and verify that, but that's the way I was trained to do it. That's the way we were told to do it. That was what we were told for Print Plant, that we get a discount. So I believe we still get a discount for doing that, okay? Down here, you're going to put your city, state, and zip code. Extension if you have it, okay? Okay, now I'm going to back up here and go back up here and cover something that I feel like I should cover with you, because a lot of you are probably asking, okay, so why do we have the name control? And why do we have only 13 characters for a last name, 10 characters for a first name, a middle initial or a middle name, which I failed to mention, which will only be 7 characters, no more? At the end of the year, each year, we get what's called an APA file. The person who does the 1099s gets that file, and it goes according to what is set up in these fields. So it's very important that we have these fields correct so that the person who does the 1099s doesn't have to make a bunch of corrections, okay? So that's why we do name control. That's why we do 13 characters, 10 characters, commas, 7 characters, okay? It's very important. Okay, so after we've done our address for an employee and we've come down here, we have the vendor contact field. The vendor contact probably for this person is going to be Mary Jones. So there's really no reason for you to put Mary Jones. It's kind of a given, correct? Unless there is a caretaker of some sort or somebody else who does business for Mary Jones. Then you can put a different person there for the contact. Otherwise, you don't have to bring Mary Jones down to here, okay? If you have a phone number, you can put a phone number. Okay. The PDT always is MA. You can put an email address if you have it. Right here where it says agency, that's you, the person setting up this profile, okay? This is me. I'm Department of Administrative Services. That's my agency number, okay? Contact is me. I'm the agency. I'm the person who's setting this up. I'm the contact for this profile because I set it up. And this is my phone number. Okay? The status code is R. It's going to remain R. The effective start date is today. Okay? I'm going to F10 to save this. If everything went all right and there were no errors, this vendor wasn't found on the system somewhere else under a different name, but the same number, something like that, I won't get an error message. It'll say record successfully added. Okay? Then this profile will go over to the 3S screen, which is the screen that the vendor desk downloads every day with the new profiles on it that need to be activated. Okay? So this is going to go over to the 3S screen. So there's no reason for you to personally send me an email to let me know that you've entered a new profile, unless you want to, or you have like a huge rush that, hey, I just entered this profile and I need it in 10 minutes. Okay. Hopefully, if that's the situation and you send me an email, I see it and get it done for you. I won't always get it done for you because I will be doing something else and I won't see it, but I try to. So unless you have an ASAP situation, you do not have to contact me via email telling me that you've entered this new profile, because I will see it. I download the profiles twice a day from the 3S screen. The 3S screen has all the new profiles on it. Okay? So does anybody have any questions regarding entering an employee?
There was a question, and I think just so you could clarify, it must do it automatically because after you saved, but Cynthia had asked on the training manual for the 52 screen for employee, the 10 shows the OR number, and you didn't have it on there in your example that you were working on. But then when you saved it, it popped up there. So is that something that they need to ever fill in, or just does it always auto-populate?
Okay, that's an auto-populate, and not all the agencies can see it. Only agency personnel with the correct security. And not, for some reason, not everybody has it. I don't know the reason why. But this blue field right now will populate after the profile has been activated. Okay, and that is blue. Anything in blue cannot be changed, cannot be touched. Okay.
Awesome.
All these things that are in blue, that are highlighted, you can't do anything to them. You can look at them if you have security. If you don't have security, you won't see the blue fields. You should always see this blue field where it says search name, which is basically just the vendor name. Okay. And you should always see the last process date. You won't be able to change anything. I won't be able to change anything on the last process date. Okay. I won't be able to change this 10 field. I won't be able to change the blue. Okay. Nobody can.
Perfect. Okay. I got several questions for you. So next one is, what does the FEI/SSN indicator field mean or do?
Okay. So that determines what type of profile you're setting up. So we put an O in here for other, because an employee is not a social security number and an employee is not a federal tax ID number. Therefore, an employee gets O for other.
Awesome. Tammy, how would you handle hyphenated last names?
Okay, good question. Okay, so say that this was not Mary Jones, this was Mary. Okay, say that's Mary's last name. Okay, so up here, it's going to be like this. Down here, 13 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
Perfect.
If
so
it
just
didn't
enter
have,
it.
if, Jack Lowe. Okay. The dash counts as a character. Okay. If it was Jack Lowe, 2 last names without a hyphen, it would look like this. Okay.
Awesome. Interesting. Cool. All right. Next question. Do we only have to indicate office address or home address if there is more than one mail code?
Okay. So you've got, this doesn't have to, you all probably noticed this is an office address. I was just thinking of it as a home address for Mary Jones. But yeah, this is my office address. If you have an office address and you want the payment to go to the office, return to agency type thing, which you can do on the 505 screen when you do your setup, You can change that PDT to make it return to agency. You can put an office address here, or you can just have it come to your office address. You can put a home address here. If you have an office address that sometimes a payment will go to, or a home address that sometimes a payment will go to. Okay, so you've got this one going to the office. Okay, you can let us know that that's an office address. Okay, if you don't put it on there at time of setup, you will have to tell the vendor desk to put that on there for you. Because after you save these profiles, you cannot make any changes to these profiles. Okay, so you want to set up a mail code going to the home address also. Okay, so you're going to press F6 on your keyboard. That brings you to the 51 screen. You see the 51 screen is different. For one thing, it doesn't have like the vendor type field, the 1099 indicator. It's different, okay? It doesn't give you as much information to fill out, but you already have a mail code 00. And you've looked at the PDT and you notice it's MA. It's not DA because DA is direct deposit. And if it's DA for direct deposit, you cannot create a mail code 001 until you get permission from the ACH coordinator, Loretta Brianne, to have that mail code 001 for payment when it's a direct deposit profile. And what Loretta will do is she'll get a hold of the vendor, the authorized person on the vendor form or on the ACH form, and she will ask them if it's okay for another address to go direct mail to a different address. Okay? If Loretta gets that permission, okay, because this was DA, then you can go over and create your new profile. If it's MA to start with, you don't need permission, okay? You just need to F6. And you need to come here and you want to, okay, so there's no mail code 001, there's no mail code 002, there's no mail codes under this already, because if I were to F6 and go over to this 51 screen, there's a possibility that a mail code's already there and it would pop up, okay? Which means you can't use that mail code. You have to create the next mail code. So then you check to see if there's 002 by doing F5, and if I F5, it's going to take me out of here and go to the next vendor number. So I'm not going to do that because I know there's not a mail code there. So I'm not going to F5 and go out of my profile, okay? I already know it's not there. Going to the 3A screen is a good way to find out if there's a mail code, okay? With the address that you want to enter even. I mean, that address may even be on the system, so check. Go to the 3A. Select. Oh, wait a minute. So I'm going to go to the 3N because I did the number and not the name. So you go to the 3N. You paste your number and you see it's there, okay? So, and there's the address, okay? The address that's already on the profile is not the one I want. I want a different address, and there are no mail codes under here that I can see. Okay, so there's no mail codes. So I can do one, and the next consecutive one would be 001, and that's not my address for my new profile. I want a different address. So they're not one and the same, so I can do it. So then I'm going to go back to the 52 screen, put my number back in, bring it up. I'm going to F6. And I'm going to go, whoop, what did I do? I don't want you. Okay. And then I'm going to go type right over the top of that. Okay. Mail code 001 for Mary Jones. Okay. That's all set up correctly, but this address is going to be different. Okay. It's going to still be in Salem, but I'm going to change the zip. Now, the vendor contact field says office. That's not correct. That was brought over from mail code 000. Anything that was brought over from mail code 000 that is not going to be pertinent with mail code 001, you're going to take off, okay? So if this said address change, because an address change had been done to mail code 000 at one time, I'm going to take it off because an address change is not being done or has not been done to this, correct? I don't want it there. It doesn't go with this profile, okay? But I am going to put that it's a home address because I want you guys to know, or the vendor desk to know, that there's an office address and there's a home address, okay? And the telephone number stays the same. And I'm the same person setting it up, okay? It's in R status, okay? I'm going to F10 to save this profile, and it's saved, okay? To get back to my mail code 000, the 52 screen, I'm going to press F6, and I'm back to the original profile. I want to look at my mail code that I just created. I F6 and F5. And there's my mail code. Are there any questions on how to set up a mail code?
I don't see any questions so far on how to set up a mail code. There is one more question in the chat. It says, what is the name of the person we contact if the PDT is DA and we want to create a mail code again?
And you want to create a mail code 001 or 002 or whatever, you want to set up a brand new profile, brand new mail code. Or not a profile, but a mail code is considered a profile. But the main profile is 000, the mail code 001, the PDT on mail code 000, the 52 screen, one and the same. Mail code 52, or the 52 screen and mail code 000 are one in the same, okay? So for mail code 000, if this is direct deposit, okay, and you want to set up a mail code 001, you know there isn't one, okay? There's no mail code 001 because you went to the 3A screen or you went to the 3N screen and you checked to see if there was one. Then you got to the profile and you brought up the number and pressed F6 and F5 and no mail code came up. Okay, now you're absolutely positive there's no mail code. Or you can see the mail code that's on the system and you can go to the next consecutive one. If mail code 01 is there, you F5 again. If there's no F0 mail code 002, then choose the one you use. Okay, so, but the profile is direct deposit. Okay, you can either go ahead, which is what most people do, and they set up their new mail code. Okay, the way I showed you, they set up their mail code. But if they do that in this profile, this mail code 000, the 52 screen is DA. When I come to it, there's 001, mail code 000, the 52 screen was direct deposit. I went ahead and set up my profile. It's in R-Stars. It goes to the 3S screen. The vendor desk takes it off the 3S screen. They go on the 3A screen and they do their job. And then they go to Workday and they do their job because it's a employee, so they have to run it on Workday. Then they get to the profile and they go, oh my gosh, they set this up and mail code 000 is direct deposit. Sorry, vendor desk can't activate this. Put a D in this field for denied, and I'm going to save it. And that's what you're going to see when you go back. Or if you try to make a payment, it's going to error out because it's not active yet. So you're going to go, oh, it's not active yet. What's wrong with it? You're going to go to the profile. You're going to look to see if there's a message, because why wouldn't it be activated? It's been on there for 2 days and activations are done daily, right? Then you see this message. Well, that message is telling you need to contact the ACH coordinator, and that's the way that you're going to get this profile activated now. And then the ACH coordinator is going to get a hold of the vendor and make sure that it's okay to activate this profile for a check under this address. Okay? Either that, or before you even bother to set this profile up, you know what you want. You send the ACH coordinator an email, or you call her if it's a social security number. If it's a federal tax ID number or an OR number, you can send her an email. If it's a social security number, you're going to have to call her. Well, actually, no. Sorry, scratch that, because it will be an algorithm if it's a social security number, which I'll show you in about 10 minutes. So you'll send the ACH coordinator the vendor number that's on the system, is how I'm going to say this, because we do not want the social security numbers under email over emails ever. So The vendor number that is on the system already is the number that you're going to send Loretta, and you're going to say, I want for this, the profile's direct deposit, this is the address I want, this is the name I want on it. Will you check and see if I can have it activated and use this profile? And if she sends something back to you and says, yeah, sure, you can do it, then you can set up your profile. You can do it either way. It's just that if you put the profile on before you do the checking, you're going to get a note and you're going to get stopped, and it's going to have to be checked anyway. Okay? Are there any questions?
I don't see any more questions at this time. Thanks so much, Tammy.
Okay, so the next profile I'm going to set up on the 52 screen is a social security number. Okay, so this is an individual person. It should not be a business name. If you're using a social security number and you're setting up a profile under a social security, you should not be setting it up under a business. Okay, sometimes people will set a social security number up under a business, and for whatever reason, the IRS will accept it. I believe it's because somewhere in there is the person's last name in that business name, okay, most of the time. But if you're going to set up a social security number, it should be in the person's name because it's a social security number, okay? So a social security number set up on R-Stars always starts with a 3, okay? No matter what, it's a 3, okay? Then you put the whole social security number that you have. Okay, there's your social security number. So the name control for a social security number is going to be the first 4 characters of the person's last name, just like an employee. Okay, so the first 4 characters. Okay. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to make it 2 last names. Okay, that's this person's name. Okay, so the name control is the first 4 of the person's last name. Okay, just like with an employee, you can use these search fields. They're for you to use. If you have a business name you want to put in these search fields, you can, okay? Or some other thing that you want to say. Some people will do this because they have something special going on with their agency and they wanted to be able to look up their profiles, okay? So they'll do like this, okay? That's agency 585 saying this is a client, and they want to be able to look these up on the 3A screen and find their clients, okay? Because these search fields will show up on the 3A screen. But if it's just the name, you have no business, you don't need anything else, you don't put anything else in these 2 fields, okay? You go to this very last search field, which we call the force search field, and you put in your first 13 characters of your last name, okay? Okay? And then the first 10 characters of the first name. A middle initial if you have it or want, but you don't have to have one. Okay, so you notice that I have exactly 13 characters here, but it's my comma, and after my first name, a comma, okay? Remember those commas. Remember no spaces after the commas, okay? No spaces here, not a space, not a comma, space. Okay, no space. Okay, so that's what that should look like right there. Now, if a person wants to, and sometimes when I go to the new profiles, I'll do this just for me because I know that sometimes when I look up a profile, I'll do this and I want to have it both ways. So you can do this. In case somebody runs the name and doesn't realize there's a hyphen in it, okay? We can do that. That way, no matter what, this is going to show up on the 3A screen, okay? But the commas, you still have to have these commas or for them to show up on the 3A screen correctly. If everybody does this, then everything should show up on the 3A screen that's supposed to show up on the 3A screen. If there's a space here and you run, and the person who does what they're normally supposed to do, runs the number the way they're supposed to, this name isn't going to come up because they're not going to know that there's a space there. Okay, so don't put that space there. Okay. All right, so the vendor type field for a vendor with a social security number is always, where the agency is concerned, an 8. Agencies put an 8. Okay? The ownership code is always an I, no exceptions. Vendor type 8 when you as an agency are setting up this profile. Ownership code as an I. 1099 indicator field is always a Y for a social security number. Okay? Social security numbers are always 1099 reportable. Okay? Always. So 1099 indicator, very important that that's a Y. Okay? The FEI/SSN indicator for a social security number is an S, a social security number, always. Okay? Reason code is add. Then I'm going to do my address. And you're going to see the same address, but it's my go-to. Okay. And my city. Okay, zip code. Vendor contact. Okay, so I know this profile belongs to John Walker Stevens. I don't have to put John Walker Stevens down there. I know to contact John Walker Stevens. This is a person. Unless someone's taking care of John Walker Stevens. Maybe Mary Walker's taking care of John and she takes all his phone calls. Okay? But if it's John, I don't need to bring that down here. Okay? I have a phone number. I have an email if I want to. I'm the person setting this profile up. This is my agency number for Department of Administrative Services, and this is my name. And this is my phone number. Okay, so I'm looking at my profile. Everything looks okay. I save it. F10. One time. All right, that profile saved. It's in our status. It's going to go over to the 3S screen. When it goes over to the 3S screen, it's not going to go over to the 3S screen as the social security number you entered, which is right here. And if you have that security, you'll be able to see this number still. This is the social security number that you put in. But our system, to protect this social security number, changed this number to what we call an algorithm. So when you hear me say, please provide the algorithm, this is what I mean. And what it's done is it's kept the 3, of course, okay, because that tells us the social security number, and it's only given us the last 4 digits of the social security number. Okay, you can see that here. It's followed it by a 1, filled it with zeros, and given it the most recent consecutive number or the next consecutive number for this series of 4 digits. Okay? Now, there may be more algorithm numbers on the system, more social security numbers on the system with these last 4 digits. That's very common. So our system's going to put them in order. Okay? And this is the first one with these 4 digits. Okay? Are there any questions about setting up a social security number? Okay, I'm going to show you a little trick. Okay? So, you know when we talk about going to the 3A screen to see if your vendor is on the system before you set it up, right? So, before I set this social security number up, I would have gone to the 3A screen or the 3N screen. The 3N screen would have done me no good because it's a social security number. So with the social security number, I would have gone to the 3A screen and I would have looked for this person. Okay? So say I want to enter a new profile. I'm going to the 3A screen. My person's name is John Stevens. That's who I want to set up, okay? Oh, he's not there. So I can set him up, right? Maybe. Okay, so let's try. Okay, not there. Okay, so he's not there. So we're assuming that John Walker is not on the system and we can set this profile up, correct? Okay, I just have to do one thing because I forgot to do it. Ignore this. I just want this number. Actually, I want this number. So I'm going to show you a trick. Okay, so I went on the 3A screen and I didn't find my vendor. So I'm like, yay, I can enter it. So I go in here. Oh, and I really goofed up. So I'm so sorry because I needed the whole number. Anyway, so I'm going to do this. And I'm going to take this number. Ignore this. Okay, now I'm here. I have my social security number sitting next to me. I ran my name on the 3A screen. So I'm going to the 52 screen because I didn't find my name. Okay? And I'm going to put a 3 here and I'm going to enter my number. Okay? There's my number. Entering my new vendor number. Yay. And I want Stevens. Eight. I. Y. S. Add. Okay, there's my new vendor number. I'm going to F10 to save it. Yay. Uh-oh. I got a V57 error message. Sometimes this message will say not unique, or it'll say security violation or something odd, but it's an error, right? And I'm like, well, what's wrong with it? It's not on the 3A. I didn't find it. Okay, so basically what the system's saying here is that it is on the system, that this number's already been used. So definitely it is the number on the system, but it's a different name, okay? A different name that we didn't know about. So a trick, what we're going to do is we're going to go like this. We're going to do the 3 because that's the algorithm number. And that's the number that's being found on the system, an algorithm number. I'm going to take the last 3 digits of this right here, and I'm going to put it on here. I'm going to follow it with the 1 that it does, and then I'm going to fill the rest of this in with zeros. All right? And then I'm going to go enter. And oh, there's my number. He is on the system already, but his name isn't John Stevens. It's John Walker Stevens. Does anybody have any questions about how to do that little trick to find a vendor that's already on the system if you're entered them as a social security number and you can't find them on the 3A?
There's no questions. Thanks, Tammy.
Okay. So now we're going to enter a federal tax ID number, okay? On the 52 screen. Okay, so a federal tax ID number always starts with a 1, no matter what. It's a 1. okay? If you have what's called a foreign vendor, okay? That means a vendor that's in a different country than the United States, okay? That vendor number will start with a 2, okay? And that vendor number is not handled by the vendor desk, okay? So a vendor using a tax ID number that is from another country or wanting a profile set up for another country, that profile will begin with a 2 and the number that you were provided. And then Carlene Hancock, who handles the 1099s and the foreign vendors, will be the one that will be inactivating or activating that profile. It won't be the vendor desk, okay? That profile will begin with a 2. It's in another country, okay? Kind of looks like this in this section down here. Your country will be here, okay? But it'll start with a 2. It's a foreign vendor. It'll start with a 2, okay? Then you'll put your information like you normally would for a new profile setup, a new FEIN, Federal Tax ID number setup, only it starts with a 2. And Carlene Hancock will handle this, okay? So it won't be activated like a Federal Tax ID number, okay? It won't go to it'll go to my 3S screen, but I won't activate it. And it won't get activated until you talk to Carlene Hancock. You have to personally contact Carlene Hancock either by email or phone. You have to give her the number that you set up in the system, and you have to say, I need it activated. She will do the work to get it activated, usually requiring a W-8 form, which is the type of form that is used for a foreign vendor. Okay, it's called the W-8 form. She'll probably ask you to get one of those or ask the vendor to get one of those. But Carlene will handle the activations, the inactivations, the address changes, everything that has to do with a foreign vendor. Carlene will handle, okay? For a normal United States federal tax ID number, it always starts with a 1, always, okay? And then your federal tax ID number. Okay, there's your federal tax ID number. The name control on a federal tax ID number is the first 4 characters of the vendor name, okay? So if the vendor is that's how your name control will look, okay? If your vendor name is Wall and Joe, that's how your name control will look, okay? Ampersands and dashes count as characters in the name control, okay? All right, then you'll go to the very next search field, okay? Right after vendor name, we're going to call this the second search field, okay? You're going to go like this. For this name, you're going to go like this. That is the first 5 characters of the vendor name, okay? On this search field, spaces count as a character. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Then we're going to do a space, and you're going to do your zip code, okay? If it's like this, that's what it'll look like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's like this, just a space, like that, okay? But it's the first 5 characters and spaces count, ampersands count, and dashes count, okay? Then you go to your next search field, which is your third search field. You can use this search field for whatever the agency wants to use this search field for to find stuff on the 3A screen. So if this business also goes under a different business, you might want to put that there if you know that. Okay? Maybe he also goes by this name. It's not his legal name, but it's a name that he goes by. Okay? You can put that there. Otherwise known as a DBA. Okay? A DBA or just another search name. Okay? But don't put DBA. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? Just put the name in that field. Okay? Down here, you don't have to put anything unless you have another search name that you want to search for. Say you know the owner's name and you want to have the owner's name. Same rules apply, 13, 10, and 7, but this is his name. So if I were to go to the 3A screen and search for any of this stuff, I should be able to find it set up the way it is. Okay? Okay, so the vendor type field for a federal tax ID number is always done by the agency as an 8. Okay? The ownership code is always done like an I. Okay? Just like with a social security number. Okay? Vendor type is 8, ownership code is I. The 1099 indicator, no matter what documentation you have in front of you, if it's a W-9, if it's any paperwork from the vendor saying anything about their 1099 indicator status, you are the one setting up this profile. You are the agency. This is always going to be a Y. Okay? Always. Okay? The only one that changes this coding is the vendor desk. Okay? And the only time the vendor changes the coding is on a federal tax ID number that I have received a W-9 for. Okay? So nobody changes this coding from anything that it is supposed to be. 8YI. Okay? Now, this is a federal tax ID number. So we know that this indicator is going to be an F for federal tax ID number. And we know we're adding a new profile. Okay? Let's do this one. Okay. Okay. Vendor contact. I don't have anybody who wants me to contact them, an accounting department or anything like that. But say I did. And his name is Ralph. Okay, I'm going to put his name there. And I'm going to put his phone number. Okay, that's Ralph. And he wants to be contacted, anything regarding this profile. He told me that. Okay. My agency, because I'm the one that set it up. My phone number, because I'm the one that the vendor desk is going to contact if there's any problem. Oop, I don't even know my phone number. Okay. All right. I'm going to save it. Record successfully added. So there's no problem that we know of yet. Okay. This will go to the 3S screen. The vendor desk will take it off of the 3S screen. It will run it on the 3A screen. And I will do a TIN match with the IRS. Okay. I will do a TIN match with the IRS on all federal tax ID numbers. And the vendor desk will do a TIN match with all social security numbers newly added in our status on the system. We will do a TIN match with the IRS before any of these profiles can get activated. Okay? So, federal tax ID numbers and social security numbers and employee numbers that are newly set up get run on the 3A screen to see if they're already on the system. If you choose for an OR number or a federal tax ID number, you can use the 3N. But you go to one of those screens and you make sure they're not already on the system. For a social security number, if you find that it's not on the system and you set it up, I showed you the trick to find it if it's under a different name. Okay? The same thing will apply if you enter a federal tax ID number and it's already on the system, you will get errored out. It will say tax numbers or the number's not unique or a security error or some kind of error. That's your clue that it is on the system under that number, but it's under a different name. Okay, so then you might want to definitely go to the 3N and check to see if you find it under a different name. But the easiest way is just go to the 52 screen. You're already there, or you might be there. You got aired out. Blank your screen. Get a new 52. Enter that number that you just entered, that you tried to enter new. Enter it in there. When you push enter, if it's there, it's going to come up. Okay? That's just the easiest way. If you get an error message down here right now, it's saying the record's not found. But if I had gotten an error message that said that it was already, it's already on the system, you're trying to enter a profile that's already, or a number that's already there, you just blank your screen out and put that number in and enter it, and it's going to come up. And if it comes up and says it went to the next record, then that's a problem. Be sure and look at that message to see if it went to the next record. Because record not found, next record recalled. Okay? But it shouldn't. It should come up, if everybody knows what I'm saying. If you put that number in there, the system's telling you it's there, you put it in there, you enter, and it doesn't come up, there's a problem. Big problem. But if it does, you've probably entered the number incorrectly. You may be, for a federal tax ID number, you entered a 3. But you've got that it's a federal tax ID number here. So the system's like, what? It's not there. You know what I mean? So, or this is supposed to be a 1 and you entered this as an S. Okay, those are the other error message you would get. You entered it wrong. Okay, or this is an S and you entered a social security number, but you entered it with a 1, which is the same thing. You just have to have the right digits in the right place. Okay, so when you get those error messages, check to see what have I done. Okay, so it says it's not there, it's not found. I entered this is a social security number. Oops, that number's not correct. I put a 1 there, it's supposed to be a 3. Or, oh, this I said was a social security number and it's not, it's a federal tax ID number. You know, check your profile to see what you've done wrong. What fields have you filled out wrong? Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding that?
We do have a couple of questions, Tammy. I going back up to when you were talking a little bit about foreign vendors, there was a question, why does the country go in the city field and not in the country field?
Oh, yeah, because foreign vendors are just set up differently. Okay, so say you have a foreign vendor here and you're going to put the address in. It's going to be some weird address, and I can't get one off the top of my head. If somebody wants to hold that question until I get over to the other session, when I go over there, which is going to be real soon, I will show you an example of a foreign vendor. Okay.
Perfect.
In fact,
I'll just bold
I'll
it
even
and
add that.
Keep it.
I'm going to bring up my vendor scenario sheet here. I'm going to write on here. Okay.
Awesome. Talk about adaptive training. Thanks, Tammy.
Okay, so that's what we'll do.
Why is the search, let's see. Oh, when you were setting up the last one, the search name, it wasn't on the last line. So when we did the first one, you had us put the search name on the last line, that 4th space, and then the other one was maybe on the 2nd line. Is there a reason why it would be on different lines? Does that matter?
Yes. Okay, so when it is an employee, you have an employee name. Always put in the search field, 4th search field. Okay, that's the search field. You always put that so that we can find it on the 3A. Okay, Paul Jones, first 4 of the last name, 4th search field, no more than 13 characters, comma, no more than 10 characters, comma. It's a name, it's a person's name, okay? OR numbers, okay? Social security number, same thing. Okay? Name control, first 4 characters of the last name, the name done in this order for the 3A screen and for the NAPA file, okay? Joan Paul, 13, 10 characters, okay? When is the federal tax ID number? The search fields are optional, okay? Okay, this is a federal tax ID number. The name is Walmart. Okay, always the first 5 characters in this second search field. This is for the 3A screen. Okay, this one is done for the 3A screen and for queries. Okay, so occasionally an agency wants to do a query. They want to find vendors. They want to find all the vendors that are for Walmart. Okay, first 5 characters of the business name, spaces count, ampersands count, dashes count. Okay, they want to find this. They want to do a query. This search field is commonly used for doing queries to find vendors. Okay, so that's why we do this. Okay, that's why this search field is like this. Okay, this search
Awesome.
field, when it's a federal tax ID number, if they have a different name that they use and you want to be able to find that, you want anybody who goes into the system to be able to find this different name on the system if it's being used, because it does go with Walmart. You can put that different name there. So Walmart also goes by Sandy. They use the company name Sandy occasionally. So you can put that there so it can be found so that we know, okay? Then you find out that there's another DBA, another name used. I'm just making things up here. This business name is also known as Scroll. You can use that field for that, okay? Or if you know the owner's name and you want it on here, that's why you do the same way you do with a social security number and an employee number, OR number. So you can also find that person under their owner's name. Okay? That's how you would do this 4th search field if you had an owner's name. If you don't want to use an owner's name, it can be blank. You want to put a different search field in there besides an owner's name? You can. Okay? Oops. Well, that was dumb. But anyway, that's how that works with federal tax ID number. Okay, for the search field. OR numbers are always last name, comma, first name. Social security number algorithms, always last name, comma, first name. Okay, say you want to do however. You want that on the first line of the address. That's what the vendor wants. Okay, so they'll either do this and the address, okay, or they'll do this. Okay, either way is fine with me, but it does depend on what the actual person who is the vendor wants. There are instances where DBA and whatever this word I created is works fine when a person takes a check to the bank. Works fine. Okay, the bank knows they've got them on file as using this name. Sometimes the bank doesn't have them on file and they will deny that check because it's got that on there. Okay, so it all depends on what the vendor wants. Okay, what goes on here, or if they don't want anything, you know. But if they do want that down here, one of their search fields or one of their other names down here, they can do DBA and hopefully have no problem with the bank, or do this. But it's up to the vendor. So you kind of want to ask the vendor or kind of want to know. So if you get a form or something that says DBA, then you're going to do DBA. If you get a form that doesn't say DBA, don't put DBA. Okay? Are there any more questions?
Awesome. Yes, there's one last question. Is the name control always the first 4 characters, and it doesn't reflect spaces, right?
No, spaces. Oh, unless. Okay, that's a good question. Okay. So if there's a space like this, And this is, we're talking about federal tax ID numbers here, okay? Okay, so this is a person's name. This is going to be the name control, okay? If this is a social security number, and this is the name, and this is the name control, it's going to be that. If it's an OR number, and this is the name, it's going to be that, okay? When it's a last name for an OR number or a social security number, and it's only got 2 characters, that's what it's going to look like. If it's got a space and you know that these are both last name, it's John Lee Noem, it's going to be like this. If it's an OR number, or if it's a social security number, 2 last names, 2 digits with a space, that's how it'll be. No second last name, all there is 2 digits for the last name. It's going to be like that. Any more questions?
I think that's all of them. Thank you, Tammy.
And here is our signature authority form. Okay, so anybody who is now authorized to set up brand new profiles or to request any changes to existing profiles from the vendor desk, you need to be on this signature authority form. This signature authority form can be emailed, okay, preferably by your manager, because this is where your manager is going to fill out their information authorizing you to set up new vendor profiles in RStars and request changes, okay, to the profiles. You're going to print your name here. You can electronically sign your signature here, and this form can be emailed to the vendor desk, okay? That is what the signature authority form looks like. Does anybody have any questions regarding the signature authority form? Here is our vendor change request form, okay? The vendor change request form can also be emailed, okay? But there are required fields and fields that I need to have in order for you to send this form to me and get your request completed, okay? I need the date, okay? These are fields that are followed by or preceded by asterisks, okay? See these asterisks? These fields have to be filled in. My agency number is 107. What is yours? Is it 137, Justice Department? The date? Agency name is the name of your agency, okay? Not your name, the name of your agency. Agency contact name is your name, okay? The agency contact phone number is not your agency number. It's your actual phone number, okay? The agency signature can be done electronically. If you're sending this over email, you do not need to have your electronic signature as long as it's your email address and you're the authorized person. If you're the authorized person on the signature authority list and you send this via email on your email, it will be accepted. A lot of people like to fill out their electronic signature and just have it on the top all the time. They just use the same form. They keep their signature on there all the time. Okay, so these fields right here, these are what you want me to do. This is what you want me to do. One or more of these has to be marked, okay? So say you want to change an address, you're going to mark that field, okay? You see the asterisks here and the asterisk here. These are required fields. If you do not fill out these fields, I cannot do this request for you, okay? So I'm asking for an address change to this federal tax ID number. The mail code I want is on 000. I'm going to ask for another request. I want it on mail code 001, or I want it on mail code 001 and 2. Okay? Fill in the mail codes that you want done. Okay? This time it's just going to be mail code 000. I want to put the name. Okay, this is the name of the vendor. If there's any other name there, then what's on the system, I'm going to be confused and I'm not going to do the request. If there's any other number in this vendor number field other than what's on the system, I can't do this request. Okay, so it's the number that's on the system, the name that's on the system. Okay, I'm going to request an address change. And I want the address to be okay. Oh, that's the search field. I'm so sorry. Wrong field. Search fields, we have 3 now. So you can add or change any search field you want. Just make sure that you're changing the search field on the system that you want changed. This is the very first search field. You've got the vendor name, the search field 1, search field 2, search field 3. Wherever you put and whatever you put in there, I'm going to do to that search field. Okay? If you don't want anything done to a search field, you don't put anything in the search field. If you don't want anything done to address line 1 and it has a DBA, but you want that DBA to stay, you don't change line 1. You only change the line you want. I want address line 2 changed to this address. I want address line 1 to remain the same. Okay? That's all I wanted to change. I only wanted this address line changed. I didn't want the first one changed. I want it to stay whatever it says, University of Oregon, whatever it says. Okay? I didn't want it changed. If I want what's on address line 1 removed, and I only want the address now, I will write right over line 1. If you do that, and there's something on line 1 on the system, I'm going to replace it with what you put here. Okay? I don't want to change the city, it's still the same. I don't want to change the state, it's still the same. I don't want to change the zip code, it's still the same. So I put nothing. Okay? I don't have any vendor contact info I want to put on there. I don't have a telephone number, a fax. I'm not trying to change the PDT, do anything with the PDT, or have a question about the PDT. I'm not doing an email address. And by the way, email addresses. If the profile on the system is direct deposit, if that profile is direct deposit, and you put an email address on here that's different than the email address that's on that profile, that direct deposit profile, the vendor desk will not change it and cannot change it. Okay? If the profile is direct deposit, don't even try to change an email address with the vendor desk. You have to go to the ACH coordinator. You do it via email. If you're an OR number, an employee, the employee would need to send an email to the ACH coordinator requesting that change. Otherwise, I believe it has to be done on the ACH change request form for federal tax ID numbers and social security numbers. But if you contact Loretta Brienne, the ACH coordinator, or whoever is backing her up on that day, you may be able to get an answer of what exactly you need to do to change that email address, okay? Also, if you're trying to change the name, this name, and the profile is a direct deposit profile, the vendor desk cannot change that name. Okay, so don't even ask the vendor desk to change a name on a profile of a direct deposit profile. That has to go on an ACH change request form and sent to the ACH coordinator, okay? Also, if you're wanting to change the vendor number, Walmart got a new number, and the profile, mail code 000, the 52 screen, is direct deposit. The vendor desk will not and cannot change that number for you. That is a ACH change request form, okay? The vendor, for any of these 2 instances, needs to fill out a ACH change request form requesting that the name or number be changed. And then they also If the number is changing, you need to send in an ACH change request form to request that the old number be inactivated before the new number can be activated. Are there any questions regarding that?
There's a couple questions just on this section. If they've already, I'm sorry. Do we need to send in new signature authorization forms, or are we good to go if we already have?
No. Most more than likely, what happens pretty much every year is that, and throughout the year, managers will send me changes, okay? It is the manager's responsibility to send me an email stating anyone who needs to be removed from their signature authority form. It is also the manager's responsibility, or I'm sorry, from the ACH form, that needs to be removed from their signature authority form. Okay, so anybody who drops off and does not have security any longer for your agency, and you want them off your signature authority form, the manager needs to send me an email stating who that person is and who to take off, okay? If the manager wants to add a new person throughout the year, all they need to do is to fill out that signature authority form with their new person on it. They do not have to renew everybody, okay? Only renew if you want to. If you want to renew everybody, like there's a new manager and he wants everybody under him, then he sends me an email saying, get rid of all the signature authority forms under this agency. Here are my new ones. I am the new manager. Okay?
Awesome. And then we have, for my division, I set up the vendors on SFMA, but coordinating with the vendors is accounting's task when I need to fill my name in with the signature authorization form.
All right, say that again.
Sure. For my division, I set up the vendors on SFMA, but coordinating with the vendors is accounting's task when I need to fill in my name with the signature authorization form.
Okay, signature authority forms are for managers to fill out and employees to fill out if they are going to be allowed to set up brand new profiles in RStars or request changes from the vendor desk, okay? So if you have a person who is authorized to set up profiles and make those changes, but you've got another person from another department, because it's their job in your agency, who wants to do this, request a change or set up a new profile, they can't unless they're on the signature authority. If that's the case, they have to go to one of the authorized people in your agency to do it. So say it's Joni who has the authorization. She's in one section. Mark in another section is the one that Joni feels should be doing this. Well, Mark's not on the signature authority, so he's not allowed to. So Mark has to go and ask Joni to do it for him, or get put on the signature authority form by his manager.
Perfect. And then how do they need to fill out the form that you have up now if they need to make a mail code inactive?
Okay, so they would uncheck that box. They would push inactivate. They wouldn't need any of that. And I would inactivate that mail code. If it was a different mail code and they wanted that inactivated, you put the mail code.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so another thing as far as on this form regarding vendor number and vendor names, okay? So say you do have a vendor who's changing their number, or you do have a vendor who's changing their name. Where these asterisks are, I still want the name and number of that's on the profile, the existing profile, okay? I want that. Down here, where it says explanation and or details, is where you're going to put sorry. Okay. If you scroll, then I will go in, I will go to the IRS, I will do a TIN match with IRS, I will TIN match the new name with the number. If the IRS says it matches their records, I will go into the profile as long as it's not direct deposit, and I will change the name, okay? if the vendor says, they're changing their number, okay, I will do the same thing. I will go into the IRS TIN matching site. I will run this name with this new number. If the IRS says it's a match, I will go into the profile. I will bring up the old number. Okay, say this is the old number and it's Walmart. Okay. It's Walmart. I'm not going to fill out all the information. Okay. Okay, I bring it up, it comes up. Okay. This vendor number is the old number. I am going to request on my request form that it replace or that they use this new number. Okay. That's what it's going to say on the profile after I get done looking at your request. And this profile is going to go to I status and it's going to be I. Okay. And on the request, when you do that, it's going to look like this. Okay, so you've requested the vendor, me change the vendor number, and they're now using this. You've done your request. Thinking this through. Okay, I've gone to the old number. I've put a message on the vendor contact field to use this new number. Okay, and I've inactivated the old profile. Okay, then I'm going to go in, and I am, as the vendor desk, or you will, if you already have, create this new profile. Okay? Sometimes I will do it for you via the request if I see you have not entered this new number. Okay? Sometimes agencies have entered the new number and it's already on the system for me. So I put it in, I enter, it comes up, it's new. On the vendor contact line, it's going to say that it replaced. This is the new profile. It's going to replace. And it's going to have the old number that it replaced. Okay? And you've created this new profile. It's in our status for me to look at. But you already know, you've sent me a request asking me and telling me this number is no good. It's being replaced by this one. On the vendor contact line, you as the agency who created this new profile is going to put that it's replaced this one. Okay? When I go in, I'm going to go to the old profile. I'm going to put to use the new number because you can't do this because you can't go into a profile that's already there. And I'm going to inactivate that old profile. Okay. And this is all going to happen because you sent me this request. Okay. And you told me all this. Okay. So either you're going to have sent me this request to inactivate this profile for this reason or for whatever reason. It may not even be this reason. Then this wouldn't be here, of course. But if it's for the reason that the name is or the number is changing, you're going to tell me that down here. I'm going to go in. I'm going to inactivate this old profile. I'm going to put use the new profile. I'm going to see if the new profile is there. If the new profile is not there, I'm going to create it if I got a TIN match with the IRS. Okay, I'm really sorry. I know that's a lot. That is how it's done. If anybody wants to call me later about any of the stuff I've talked about, because I know it's a lot, feel free to. I'm going to move on, though, because we're running out of time. This is the IRS website that I go into, and I do my TIN match, okay? I ran this number. I got this result. That result is up here. That is a 7. It says that the TIN and name combination match IRS EIN records. That 7 means that that is a federal tax ID number, okay? It matches with the name, and it matches with that number. It's a 7. It's a federal tax ID number. So on your profile that you set up, hopefully you created that profile with a 1, like a federal tax ID number, okay? And you didn't run it as a social security number, because if you did, I'm going to have to change all that, okay? So make sure you know that it's a social or a federal tax ID number. And if you don't, and you enter them as the wrong type, a social security number as a federal tax ID number, or, whatever. I will make the changes. I will correct that if I get a match with IRS telling me that it is one or the other, of course, if that it is a match. I will make that change for you. But a code of a 7, that result is a federal tax ID number, okay? If I would have gotten a 6, it would have been telling me that the name and combination matches IRS Social Security number records, SSN records, okay? If I get a 2, okay, a 2 means that the TIN entered is not currently issued by the IRS, okay? If I get a 3, TIN and name combination do not match IRS records, okay? So this is what I'm looking at. This is where I get my results. All I do is I put in the number, I put in the name, it gives me the result. It does not give me the answer. So if this is a 3 where the TIN and name combination don't match, they're not going to tell me what it is. They're just going to tell me it doesn't match. Okay, so we have to find that out. We have to go to the vendor. Namely, the agency is going to have to go to the vendor, and they're going to have to find out from the vendor what's wrong. Either the name or the number's wrong. The IRS says it's a code 3, that a name and number combination are not a match. Either the name or the number is wrong. Okay, a vendor you go in and I get a 2, and the IRS says it's not entered in their system. It doesn't exist. Okay, then we got to go to the vendor and say, hey, is there something wrong with your vendor number? Because I got a 2 and the IRS says it doesn't exist. Is there something wrong with your number? Did you just get this new number? Maybe they're 2 months behind, which is possible. Okay. In those cases, after I've done this TIN match, what I can ask from you to give you help or to get help in finding out what the problem is that I can have you request an SS-4 form, Department of Revenue, their letterhead, it's their form. They sent this form to the vendor after they set them up newly in their system. They send this to the vendor. All right, it says their legal name. So when I look at this after you sent it to me, maybe I find out, oh, well, that's not the name at all. This is their legal name. They don't even know what their legal name is, but that's fine. Okay, we can fix that. Here's their number. Oh, well, it's the correct number, but the wrong name. Or it's the correct name, but this number is different than what the agency set up in the system. Okay, this is the SS-4 form. This is the form that the IRS sends the vendor after they set them up on their system. So if the vendor provides this form to the vendor desk and it's totally correct, everything's right, this will override what the IRS told me in the TIN match. And I will activate the vendor, and I will put a note on the vendor contact field, TIN match, or SS-4. That's what I'll put there. This will still say a 2 that the IRS says it doesn't exist. But I'm going to activate this profile because they've got a form from the IRS stating that's their legal name and number. Okay, so that's a way to get around some of the issues with if the vendor name and number aren't a match with IRS, or if the IRS says the number doesn't exist. Okay, this is the IRS W-9 form. We by law have to accept it. We don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it because they don't give enough description in the organization type for us to do our coding correctly, in my opinion. Okay, because a lawyer or a medical corporation can mark that they're a corporation. If we can't tell that it's a medical corporation or an attorney, we're going to falsely, or we're going to inaccurately mark our TIN matching or our 1099 field here with something that it's really not. And that's bad. That could get us in trouble. That could get us audited with the IRS. So we want that 1099 indicator field to be correct to what it is. And I will tell you that if I cannot figure it out, I will put a Y no matter what, and this vendor will get a 1099 because that's the safest way to go for us, because they'll get a 1099 and we're safe with the IRS. If I put an N and this vendor was supposed to get a 1099, we can get in trouble, we'll get fined. Okay, so this is the IRS W-9 form. Great form, but it's not a good form for us. That's why we created our own. Okay, so when you receive this form, for one thing, make sure they've filled out a name here. Make sure there's a name. Okay, make sure they've marked one of these, because if they haven't, the form's no good. okay? And if they've marked something that I think is something other than what they say it is, I'm going to put it what I want. I'm going to put it what I think it is, my safe way, okay? Make sure that it has a tax ID number in it. Never, ever send a W-9 form, rather it's IRS form or our form, to the vendor desk or to anyone in the Department of Administrative Services, okay? No Social Security numbers allowed, and we don't want them anyway. We don't use them. Vendors with algorithms set up as associates with an algorithm are always 1099 reportable. They get a 1099 no matter what. We do TIN matching with the IRS to make sure that they're correct. So we don't need a W-9. We don't want one. Okay? Okay, so only W-9 forms for federal tax ID numbers. Make sure they've filled out an area that they're supposed to fill out. Make sure they put their name. Make sure they put their number. Okay? If I don't like what they put and I know they're an attorney and they say they're a corporation, they're going to get marked as an attorney. Okay? So we go on here and we get our profile set up. I activate it because everything's okay. The very next day, after it's activated, you'll see a date here, W-9 request date. That means our system has sent out a W-9 form, okay? All right, our W-9 has set out a W-9 form. I'm sorry, what happened there? Okay, so this date here, W-9 request date, is the date that the W-9 went out, okay? Our system sends that W-9 form out, okay? This is the W-9 form that our system sends out. This is the one we like. And as soon as I can get it enlarged, I will show you why. Okay, so on this W-9 form, when the print plant sends this form out from our system because it senses an activation of a federal tax ID number, okay, the print plant will automatically fill out the vendor name for the vendor, okay? The vendor's name and address will be automatically printed here from our profile, okay? And a phone number if it has it, okay? Down here in box 3, the print plant will automatically have that number printed, that federal tax ID number, minus the 1, because that doesn't make it a federal tax ID number to the vendors. They like, what? It will be the vendor number without the 1, okay? So their vendor number will be there provided for them to see, okay? So basically, when I get a phone call and they're like, what is this for? Why are you asking me for this? I say one of our state agencies has set you up on our system to receive some kind of payment from the state of Oregon. Do you know which agency you're working with? There should be your name and address provided in box 1, and your federal tax ID number will be in box 3. We just need you to verify that that is correct. If the vendor has any problem and says, no, this isn't correct, this isn't correct, they make the corrections on this form, okay? They can do that. Then I tell them, I want you to mark your organization type. Okay, I need your organization type. Now you'll notice in the organization type fields versus the federal form, ours are more, we have more detail, okay? So somebody who's saying they're a corporation, we are actually asking them, are you a corporation, not medical or attorney? Then you can mark here. Otherwise, you're medical, you're attorney, okay? The IRS form doesn't do that for us. We do that for us, and we want that. Up here, sole proprietor, partnership, LLC, LLP, trust, all of those, okay? They're all reportable. Here's the coding right here. The Y, reportable. N, not. Y, yes, no, 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 for all these, okay? We've got a spot for if the person claims to be local government or a political subdivision. We have a spot for if someone says they're just government, federal government. One that's not profit, okay? So when they mark this not profit, that's great, okay? But unless they include this copy of this exemption letter from the IRS that says that they're nonprofit, I'm not going to mark them nonprofit. They're not going to get this N. They're only going to get this N in the 1099 indicator field if they give me this letter, okay? If they don't give me this letter, they're going to get this other coding, this 5 and this G, this 5 for the vendor type and this G for the ownership code, but they're going to get a Y. And then there's going to be a note on the profile. Oh, shoot, I went away. There's going to be a note in the vendor contact field that says no nonprofit proof, okay? And so when you look up there and you see in that 1099 indicator field that it's a Y and you think it should be an N, but you look down at that vendor contact field where we put notes and it says no nonprofit proof, then that's why they didn't get it, okay? So that's our W-9 form, and we require them to sign our W-9 form. We want it signed. The IRS has a statement in their W-9 form information down below, like we have our information here, that says they don't have to sign it, okay? That's another reason why we don't like the IRS form, because we want it signed. They say they don't have to. We have to accept it anyway if we get it. So, okay, we keep that hush-hush a little bit, but we want our form, okay? This is an example of nonprofit from the nonprofit site, okay? So if you get a W-9 form and it doesn't include a nonprofit letter and you want to go the extra mile for them, you can go and do that. Oh, you can do that. Okay. You can go on to the IRS nonprofit search. Okay. You just click on here. You click on here and you click where it says online search tool. Okay. Then you enter your federal tax ID number that you're looking for in here. Okay. You put your federal tax ID number in there, you press enter. Okay. This is where they come up. I don't want all those to come up. Okay, so I'm going to put a fake number in here, so it's probably not going to come up. So I'm going to show you an example. Okay, and I'm going to search for that number. Okay. See, it says your search did not return any results. Okay, so that means that the IRS does not have them as nonprofit. Okay, now, if there was a vendor name and it happened to be the vendor name that you had on the W-9 form that's claiming to be nonprofit, it's that number and it's that name and it's accepted, then you could snippet this. You just go here because it won't let you copy and paste. It rarely lets me copy and paste, but you can snippet. You just go to your thing here and somehow you find snippet and you snip it and put it on a Word document. And then you can send that, you know, with the W-9 form that you have attached to your email to me. You can do that. If you want to do that extra mile, you can do that. And I do that. I do that a lot. Okay. I hate admitting it. I do it a lot because I want those forms that we're supposed to have. But this is the way you can do it without anything from the vendor. This is how you can do it. Okay. How you do it with the form that you're supposed to get from the vendor is this one. You request from the vendor. This is the nonprofit Internal Revenue Service. It's got their name. It's got their number. It says they're exempt. It's a 501c letter. Sometimes it's a 509. Okay. 501 or a 509. Okay. But it's a letter from the IRS with their name and their number. This is what we want. And this is what we call the exemption letter on our W-9 form. Okay. That we're asking for next to where that organization type is marked. Okay.